Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Full10Yards NFL podcast.
Hello, it's that time of the week again. It's time to preview week 3 of the NFL season. Once again, I'm your host, Sam Moores, and this is a Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. Joining me to break down each of the games you can watch on Sky Sports this week and pick what to look out for in the rest of the slate is a returning guest, Owen Cawdell. He's a journalism student at the University of Glasgow. In fact, he's downstairs to me right now in this house. Welcome, Owen, mate. Welcome back to the podcast. We had you on for the season preview podcast. It's nice to have you back on again. And I mean, look, week 3, we've got some good games going on this week, haven't we?
Yeah, good games. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. But yeah, there's a lot of big matchups. In terms of there's some divisional matchups, there's some derby matchups, rivalry games, and it looks like it's going to be a good week of NFL football.
It is indeed. But before we start the week 1 preview, we must get into the recap of last night's Thursday Night Football game, where Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey starred in the 49ers' domination over the New York Giants. The Niners dominated the clock, they kept drives going, they converted 71% of third downs as well. They were just so good. They didn't even ask Brock Purdy to do anything, and yet he still had 300 yards passing. Yeah, he had 0 big-time throws coming into the game. He hasn't needed to take risks all season. He didn't even look great last night, but he's in the best team in the league, and I think the Niners are probably the best team in the league, right?
Yeah, they're standing out like it at the moment, yeah. They don't.
For sure,
I
man.
I don't see him slowing down either. Last night they looked unreal.
Yeah, for sure. Once Ronnie Bell scored midway through the second, because it was close pretty much throughout the entirety of the first quarter and most of the second. But yeah, Ronnie Bell scored midway through the second. The Giants' offense was struggling. They couldn't. The Niners took it up a gear after that point, and the Giants couldn't keep up. They just weren't. They were struggling. Obviously, they still struggle. They didn't score a single point in the first 6 quarters of football. And obviously they came back to win against Arizona last week. But yeah, even more so about Saquon Barkley as well, who obviously is out of an ankle sprain. This Giants team really didn't look good last night, and Daniel Jones especially.
I think. The comeback against Arizona, I think everyone, not overreacted them in such, but they looked good in the comeback. I think everyone was quick to forget the 6 quarters without scoring, and I think San Fran sort of exposed that a little. Look, the San Francisco defense absolutely killed the Giants all game, especially the D-line versus the Giants O-line. Daniel Jones was running for his life. I mean, I know you're up against Nick Bosa. That near safety, I think, edged the game in a different direction, but I think it's just, I don't know what's up with the Giants. I mean, we know Daboll runs a tight ship. It's not clicking. I think Darren Waller's still not clicking there, and I'm not putting all the blame on Daniel Jones, but he has not looked up to it so far, and I don't know if they'll regret paying him, but it was clear to see the difference last night.
Yeah, I think they will. I don't think he's worthy of that contract, in my opinion. I feel like they're going to start to regret it soon, because as the season goes on, because he wasn't that great last year. Like, yes, he tidied it up, but it's not like he's not. Brock Purdy had a better season numbers wise than Daniel Jones did, right? And Brock Purdy played like half a season less. That's saying something. He's not a great thrower of the football. I think he still makes some dumb decisions, even with Daboll trying to tie that up and everything. But for me, he needs to stop running more, because that's what he's good at. And there's another quarterback who I think is the same thing, which we'll talk about later. But he's really good at it. We saw, we've seen it plenty of times. If you can get into open space, you can get a first down. He can run for 80 yards. We've seen it, in that Monday night game against the Eagles a couple of years ago. It's just it's like before he slipped over. But I think just my main takeaway from this game is the Niners are going to be very hard to beat. The Giants will be lucky. The Giants are lucky to be 1-2 at the moment. They're one of the worst teams in the league this season. We said in the podcast, in the predictions podcast, we both expect them to regress, right? But I didn't expect them to regress this much. They look a shadow of themselves defensively, and obviously without Saquon as well. We'll see how long he's out for. But this team right now looks like one of the worst teams in the league.
It's such a steep decline from where they were last year. I know they made playoffs last year.
They were lucky to get playoffs last year, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I know it is. But you look at it on paper last year compared to this year, and you're thinking, what has happened? I mean, they've
got a better roster, but they've got a very hard schedule. That's the only thing as well.
They've got a very tough schedule, yes, granted, but they still don't look like beating teams at all. And it's gonna take some time, I think, to settle into it. They don't seem ready for the season. They got exposed last night, well and truly, on offense. And I mean, we talked about Daniel Jones, and yes, he didn't look good, but no one on offense looked that good. I mean, we heard from their training camp all summer that Darren Waller is back. He's back to the old Darren Waller. He's ready to light up the league again. I haven't seen any of that. So it's sort of, it's just, I think 2 takeaways from that game especially was the Giants are very bad, but also God of the 49ers good. They are very, very good. And
it may just be that, maybe they have turned the corner, but the Niners are so good that it's hard to play that way against Niners anyways. We'll see next week. On to Sunday now, and we'll start with the big game on Sky at 6 p.m. It's the Chargers at the Vikings. The Vikings are 1.5-point favourites. Both teams 0-2. Don't think we expected that going into this year, and they're both looking to turn the seasons around. Whoever loses this really has a high improbability of making the playoffs, just because our own 3 teams never really make the playoffs. These teams' problems are they're not their quarterbacks. Clearly, for me, they're not their quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is balling right now. He's trying to earn a new contract, and he's going to be a free agent this season. Whether he stays in Minnesota or not is another question. There's talks he could get traded away to a team like the Jets potentially, because obviously he knows that system well. But yeah, I don't think he's the issue at all. And Justin Herbert's clearly not the issue in LA. He's supremely talented, and although I believe he can come unstuck in big moments, as we've seen the last 2 games in the fourth quarter, he is the least of the Chargers' problems right now. And that's true. Brandon Staley is at seriously threat of not even completing the season at this point because, I spoke with Liam about this on Monday. He is seriously on the hot seat. If he starts 0-3, I can see him being gone in 4 or 5 games. Genuinely, because this team is so talented, and yet you're a defensive coach, and your defense cannot play defense. And we saw last week that the offense also for the Chargers are not the same about Eckler. Mm-hmm. Like Christian McCaffrey, he is a running back that's very difficult to replace, and those are very hard to find, by the way, as well, because a lot of running backs in this league are chop and change. But take Eckler out of that Chargers team, and the offense is a shadow of itself. They couldn't really run the ball when they run the ball for over 233 yards a week before when Eckler did play. So I think that just says it all. But I just keeping with the Chargers first. What do you think the issue is? Because it's not looking pretty. And they have to win on Sunday, don't they?
I think your claims of the hot seat is true, and I think it will come into fruition. I think it's something's not right and something's not clicking, but you can't really quite place where it is, and that normally means coaching. Because if you look at Herbert's numbers, he's had a good positive start to the year. Like, he's really not been that bad, but he seems to be a bit of a scapegoat for the current situation.
Yeah, like he's getting a lot of stick, isn't he? I mean, I've given him a stick a lot for the moments, right? But even now, I'm hearing that everybody's picking up my take I've had for a while now, and when everyone's noticing the same thing, maybe it is taken away from Staley a bit. But honestly, I like that. That's the thing. Like I want to see a better coach, Justin Herbert. Like, if you're Sean Payton now, you're looking at it like, what a bad decision I made to go to Denver. By the way, because not only have you cost that Denver team a first round pick, also if you just waited a year, you could go and coach Justin Herbert.
That is extreme. Yeah, that would be extreme. He must be looking back now, thinking, what have I done? But we'll get on to Denver later. I've got some comments on that, but I think. The thing with the Chargers is, if they don't change their coaching staff, I don't see it changing. I know Eckler's out. I don't know how long he'll be out for, remainder. But even with him, they looked a bit one-dimensional. And there is no sign of it being fixed, apart from if you make a change at the coaching staff. And I don't know. I think both teams have their problems. I think that's no secret. And I think the dreaded 0-3 start will be hanging over their heads, and it will make it a very entertaining game.
For sure.
But I think it's a tough one to pick, It really is a tough one to pick. If you look at their points per game, Chargers have 29 whilst Minnesota have 22.5. But I don't think that's representative of the two teams at all. If you watch the general play, I think even like if you look at the Chargers defense, that is a big sign that, I mean, you got great assets everywhere and it's not playing that well, and it's all a bit like it's all adding up. But I mean, onto the Vikings. It's their running. It's their rushing attempts and rushing yards that are the downfall of this Vikings side. I mean, they did just acquire Cam Akers, which is huge. I don't know how many, or if any, snaps he plays on the weekend. I'm not sure if he does at all. But they have 34 rushing yards a game they're averaging so far this season.
Ooh.
That's mental. I mean, look, we know Kirk Cousins has been balling out. And as you said, it's on a contract year. It's been expected. He's throwing at a 72% completion rate. He's shown signs of being, well, so far this season, an elite quarterback. But it's just, if you're Chargers defense, I think you're quietly a bit happy going into this one because you know the rushing is not going to be there, so you can just focus on locking down Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, but they can't stop receivers. So if you're the Vikings, right, you're looking at the Chargers' numbers on defense. You're looking at 32nd in yards allowed per game, 30th in points per game. Yeah, the 31st ranked defense in PFF's grading team-wise right now. You know, and they're still letting up big plays in 3rd and long, and that's Justin Jefferson range. You know, I just
it really is. You
know, and also right. The Vikings have got a 3-prone attack now because they've got TJ Hawkinson, who's really established himself as one of the league's top tight ends and is, almost a year in Minnesota now, in Kevin O'Connell's scheme. Jordan Allison has started really well as well. He's had 2 TDs. He's averaging 19 yards per catch as well. I had him as my offensive rookie of the year. One of my picks for that in the guide. And I honestly can't not pick Minnesota in this game because I just don't trust the Chargers at all. I can't.
I have it. I have it as a close one between I have Vikings just edging it out, and I think it will be down to Justin Jefferson. I mean, big players make big plays, and then big plays win you games. And I think it will come down to. I'm really sad I don't own him in fantasy, but I think it will come down to Justin Jefferson earning a lot of fantasy this week and sort of taking the game by its horns. I think.
I'm in 5 leagues, and I think I got Jefferson in 2 of them, so I don't mind that. I don't mind
Lucky
that at
man. Lucky
man. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. Really, it's gonna be a shootout because both these offenses are high scoring. Eckler not being there is a big loss for the Chargers, but the Vikings are also missing a few players as well because their left tackle Christian Darrisaw, who missed last week, he's questionable, as are Garrett Bradbury, and then on the defense side of the ball they're missing Jordan Hicks and Marcus Davenport too, who are 2 of their key players on defense, the middle linebacker and starting edge rusher. So it's but even with those pieces missing, I still believe at the end of the day I look at it, I'm like, who do I trust more of a game on the line? And it's Kirk Cousins over Justin Herbert.
Completely,
and,
yes. Completely.
Especially against Brandon Staley's defense. So I'm going to go for the Vikings. They're favoured by, 1.5. I'm going to back the over as well. I think they're going to buy over 2 points. And I can. Kirk Cousins this is going to be the start of a very good season for him. I think I called it early on, and I'm backing that.
I like it. Yeah, I think he's gonna continue to be that player throughout the season. He hasn't shown any signs shutting down, and he's 72% completion rate so far this season. That is, we've seen it before from him, but not at a consistent level. And if he can get that down, I think he's looking at big money this offseason.
The only thing that's undone the Vikings this season has been turnovers. They've had a few turnovers in each game. They had a couple especially in the first half and against the Eagles, and then a couple against the Bucks as well. So I just if you're a Chargers fan, I'm sorry, but until something changes or I see it, I can't pick you in these this is a good offense. I can't pick you. You let Ryan Tannehill drop a dick ball on you. If you're letting the statue that is Ryan Tannehill step up into the pocket and drop a deep ball on you, that is a really bad thing.
Yeah.
So, So I think we're both going for the Vikings in this one, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. I think close shootout, but I think it will be the Vikings that take it.
Right, on to the rest of the 6 p.m. games, which we'll riddle through now. Look at a few talking points. We'll start with the first one. It is the Colts heading to Baltimore. The Ravens are 8.5-point favourites. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get an Anthony Richardson versus Lamar Jackson matchup this year because Richardson is out of with a concussion suffered against Houston last week. That means Gardner Minshew will get the start. He's one of the best backups in the league, but this task won't be easy because he looks like he could be without Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson in the middle of the offensive line. So that's your two best offensive linemen missing. So Baltimore, they should win this one. They looked really good last week as well, missing multiple starters, especially on the defense, and they shut down Cincinnati's offense. Cincinnati's shut down for the second week in a row. They shut them down on defense, missing Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams. It's Lamar Jackson, one of his best games since his MVP season last week. He was so good. He made up for the Houston game where he was rubbish. And look, I mean, injuries will wear down Baltimore at some point. Humphrey and Williams are still injured. They're not going to play today. OBJ is likely out of an ankle too. But right now they're rolling, and I can't pick against them. So I'm going to go for the Ravens, and I'm going to go over 8.5 points as well.
That's completely fair. I'm also going to take the Ravens, but I think it's going to be closer than it seems. Because Gardner Minshew led this Colts team since the second quarter. After Anthony Richardson ran the show, yes, he racked up 14 points and looked very good. Gardner Minshew led it, and he led it comfortably. He threw for 171 yards and threw a touchdown with a 76% completion rate. And I think, I'm not big on Minshew mania, not going to lie, but I think he will surprise if you eat. I love him. I love him off the field. On the field, I wouldn't trust him as my quarterback, but I think it'll be closer. I mean, this new Ravens pass offense, as they're calling it, it does look like it's working, and it does look good. And especially Zay Flowers, he's impressed me. He looks very, very good. But I think it's gonna be a Baltimore win. I think that's pretty much set in stone, barring something huge from the Colts. It's gonna be a Baltimore win, but I think it's gonna be closer than the over 8.5. I think it'll be reasonably close, and I think it will be a good game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to watch this one on Monday morning for sure. On to Cleveland now, where they welcome the Tennessee Titans. The Browns are 3.5 point favourites without Nick Chubb. But don't expect their dominant ground game to completely fall away because they have multiple players who can run the ball, especially Kareem Hunt. They've just signed, reunited with after Chubb went down for the year. This game is going to be very close, I think. It's a low-scoring, run-heavy game with the way both teams are set up. Very good on defense. They had Derek Carr's got a great running back and a great run game from Cleveland's point of view. And it will come down to probably the final play of the game, as have all Tennessee games this season so far. The Cleveland defense has been so good this year. They're the second least yards allowed, only 15 first downs too. But also, so has the Tennessee defense. And I'm going to pick Tennessee to win just because I feel like they have the better running back, Derrick Henry, obviously, and better coaching. And that may be the difference because Mike Vrabel was coached 2 wins one win last week, and he almost coached a win in New Orleans that the Titans should have won. But the only problem is Tannehill threw 3 interceptions in that game. But the Titans have been a nice surprise this year. They're a very well coached team. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see them, have a wild card spot at the end of the season. Just whether they can pick up the wins or not. If they can pick up a win here against a team that they're fighting for the wild card spot, that'll be absolutely mega. And I'm going to go for Tennessee, but I think it'll be under 3.5 points.
Yeah, no, that's completely reasonable. I think, look, Deshaun's form is a problem. Deshaun Watson, we know this, and he did not look impressive on Monday Night Football. He did not look good. The rushing for the Browns, they're the league leaders in rushing yards with 202 yards per game rushing. And I think that run game is going to take a big blow.
A lot of it's Deshaun, though.
Yeah, a lot of it's Deshaun. But it's going to take a big hit without Nick Chubb as well. We got to notice that. Kareem Hunt, good pickup. We know what he can do, especially in the Browns uniform. We know. I think Tennessee will struggle against the Browns defense, who have been excellent this season. I mean, Tannehill's only thrown 1 touchdown among 3 picks, and the main target in DeAndre Hopkinson has only played. He's only got 105 yards this season. He's played limited yardage.
Oh, I mean, look, he's been hurt as well. Even so you've got Treylon Burks and the guy who Charlie always mentions, Nick Westbrook-Akine, who is always there. He just pops up and makes a play. But yeah, if you're without D-Hop, then that's really bad for sure.
So I think Cleveland make a meal out of it without Nick Chubb. I think they struggle, especially in the first half. But I do have them taking this game. I think it'll be tight, like you said. I think it'll be a shootout, but I have them winning, especially because of this Browns defense, who have been excellent to start this season. So good. Shows when you change coordinator how good your defense can be. They've always had the talent, and it's nice to see them finally make a play on that.
On to Detroit now, who host the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this game I can't wait to watch. The Lions are favoured by 3.5. And it's two teams, again, that love to run the ball, and also two teams that have spent a lot on their defense in free agency. So it'll be good. Good test to see where both teams are at. Detroit could be without two key components of this running game, though, because David Montgomery and Hal Vaitai have not practiced this week. The Falcons' defense played very well these past few weeks, especially against Green Bay last week. Whereas Detroit is starting to look very similar to how it was before. Obviously, they had a shootout in. They had the great game in Kansas City, but the shootout last week in Seattle was something. Well, against Seattle was something, and the defense did ultimately let loose of Tyler Lockett a lot last week. I love both these teams. I can see them beating again in the wild card round as well, so I think both will be playoff teams. But I'm going to pick the Falcons as the Lions are super banged up, and they've got so many injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And honestly, I love a bit of Bijan Robinson. He's going to have a day. Arthur Smith is such a good offensive play caller. We saw it last week. They control the clock as well, and ultimately, if I think whoever has the most amount of possession, time wise in this game wins, and history tells us it will be Atlanta. So I'm going for Atlanta.
So this game looks amazing. These two teams have been on fire. Look, they've both been great to watch. Lions coming off that overtime loss to Seattle, they'll want to bounce back in style. And Falcons sitting pretty at 2-0 after a tight win over Green Bay, in which they deserve to win. They've really impressed me. I think, look, as you said, rushing will be a huge factor in this game, and so will injuries. But I think it does come down to defense with this game. I think it's whoever can hold up the most. And on paper, if I've got to pick one with injuries included, I'm going to back the Falcons, and I think they'll win this. I think it'll come down to the wire again, like all of the Lions and Falcons games, it seems, this year. And I think it'll carry on. I think they're two good teams. They're two potential teams that will make it the playoffs. Sorry, potential playoff teams, as you said. But I think, yes, the Falcons just edge it on defense. There's another side narrative about Jeff Okudah making his Falcons debut this weekend that I really love. I just want to see how he gets on, because I was hot on him. When he got drafted, I was really hot on him, and it's been a bit of a disappointment, but it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be anything that happens in this game, because the defenses are stacked, and the rushing game is also really good. Like you said, Bijan, when is he not entertaining? This is going to be a great game, and I have the Falcons just edging it.
Yeah. On to the Packers, who host New Orleans Saints. The Packers are 1.5 point favourites, but the Saints have not looked pretty this year. But they are sitting pretty at 2-0. And they're looking well coached too, which is great for Dennis Allen, because he was one of the favourites to be fired before the season. It is their final game without Alvin Kamara too. They will be missing Jamal Williams, their starting running back, to a hamstring injury. So look for Kendre Miller, Rashid Shaheed, who's a sort of hybrid receiver runner player who's so fun to watch, and Tony Jones to get an increase in touches. And if anything, actually, you might actually find your number 2 running back behind Kamara from this game, because Williams hasn't been great. He's averaging about 2.5 yards per carry, and Taysom Hill currently leads the team in rushing, so that might say something. But no, this is the first big defensive test for Jordan Love and the Packers. They could be without Aaron Jones, Bakhtiari, and Watson again. They're all questionable. It's an uphill battle if they're out. But the Saints defense are playing so well. Derek Carr's playing well too. He's playing better than he did in Vegas last year. Chris Olave is by far the number 1 receiver now. Michael Thomas is he looks healthy, which is good. But Shaheed and Olave again, just as many, if not more, targets. But no, the Saints, the offensive line for the Saints is what worries me, which is why I don't really mention their offense, because Dalton got killed last year. Carr's getting killed this year. But I'm still picking New Orleans. It's a slightly better roster, and the Packers are banged up. And I think Jordan Love will he'll throw his first interception in this game for sure, and which I'm sure Ollie Darcy would not like.
He's not going to be happy.
when we're sat with him on Sunday watching it, we'll see how that fares. But I'm picking the Saints here. I honestly, and I did a lot on this team. I did the guide for them. I did not have the Saints going 3-0, but they've really impressed me with the way they've won games. They're not by far. They're not that pretty, but they're sitting pretty at 2-0, and I think it'll be 3-0 because I defense and if Green Bay, we saw it last week, if Green Bay are missing those players again, they're not the same team. Especially Aaron Jones, because A.J. Dillon struggled to run the ball last week, and David Bakhtiari, obviously, he's one of the best offensive tackles in the league.
Huge,
So if he goes, and going up against Cam Jordan, then we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this game comes down to two key matchups, and I think it'll be Chris Olave lining up against Jair Alexander. I think that'll be the matchup. I think whoever gets the better out of that matchup will be huge for the game, and especially the New Orleans offensive line versus the Green Bay defensive line. I think Derek Carr might be running for his life most of the game, but I think he's going to be under pressure all night. I think that's no secret. It's no secret New Orleans' offensive line is awful. It's not been good for years. Saints are 2-0 for the first time since 2013. I haven't fallen into 2-1. I think the defensive pressure from Green Bay is going to be too much. I don't think they get much going on offense, if I'm being honest. And I think it'll be close. I think Jordan Love's current league leader in touchdowns, and I don't think it will carry on. But
he's not being asked to do anything. He's just if you look at his big time throws compared to his TDs, he's only had 2 big time throws. That's the same amount as like Kenny Pickett, and he's not done anything spectacular. It doesn't wow me. He's just a West Coast system QB, and unless I'm showed otherwise, then it's successful. It'll win games, but going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love is a big decline in my opinion.
It's a decline. Also, I've got it in my notes that Jordan Love looks all right. That's as far as I can go. Right?
He
looks all right. It's like nothing's wowed me. Nothing to maybe go, oh no. It's sort of, he looks all right, but yeah, I think the defensive pressure from Green Bay will be too much. And I think Green Bay take this one. Not comfortably, not closely. I think it'll be a bit of it will be like you've won, but like you haven't looked good.
Yeah, fair play. Right, on to another divisional matchup. We've seen so many of them this season. It feels like already. It's good to start your. It's good to start the season with loads of divisional matchups because you get to find out really what these teams are. Because if they lose a game in division, then they're up against it. It's good news for Houston as CJ Stroud looks set to start versus the Jags, who are 8.5-point favourites in Jacksonville. Stroud was nursing a sore shoulder. I'm disappointed by the Texans. I was really hard on them. I had them getting about 8 wins. I was, they've built in all the positions. Stroud just needs a receiver, but they've been hurt by the offensive line injury wise. They've been poor offensively, but Stroud's been their best offensive player. I've really been impressed by what he showed me. It's hardly surprising when he's playing with a backup offensive line in front of him. He's missing Laramie Tunsil, he's missing Titus Howard, he's missing Kenyon Green. That's 3 first-round pick offensive linemen who are all injured. And that's not great at all for a rookie quarterback. So I can't really judge them for that. The defense is what disappoints me about Houston, though, because with all the young defensive talent they have, I mean, Will Anderson's made plays. Derek Stingley hasn't. No, he still hasn't kicked on. The defense, I thought it'd be better than this, and we'll see how they grow throughout the season. Obviously, it's a new defensive scheme. Last year they were good on defense, but it's a different scheme. So we'll see how they elevate into the new scheme with DeMeco Ryans, obviously. But no, the Jags' offense on the other hand has been cooking. Even with the lack of a touchdown against the Chiefs, there is still Trevor Lawrence is still playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's airing it out. We had 8 big time throws. He's tied with 2 at the top of the league for that. The Jags' defense has been the star of the show as well. And going up against a backup Texans offensive line, I can't pick anyone but Jacksonville. I'm gonna go for the over as well, over 8.5 points. I'm very surprised by this Jags team, and I honestly can see him getting 13-14 wins with the way their schedule looks. To be honest with you, and Trevor Lawrence could be a shout for MVP. You mentioned Tua, which we'll go on later, but Lawrence is if the Chiefs season carries on as it is, Lawrence will be up there. I'd put it out there.
So I had Trevor Lawrence as my MVP. I had a little hot take MVP candidate, and I said him from the start of the season, and I'm very happy that he's turned up. Look, I think this Jacksonville team are on that little cusp of being elite, and these divisional matchups are those little games you need to win.
Because they've lost them in the past. That's the thing.
They need to win them. I mean, everyone expects them to win the division. Everyone, I don't think anyone's arguing with that. But these little games are the ones that, when you look at the record at the end of the season and you lost, they're the ones that stop you from being elite. And I think Trevor Lawrence he's been really good this year. And as you said about the Jacksonville defense against that weak Texans O-line, I don't see anything now. I'd also take the over. I think it might be a little bit. I think going into halftime, I think like if you're watching it, you're like, switch games. This one's done with. I think it'll be a bit of a whitewash, but I wanted Houston to be better. I really do want Houston to be better, and it's going to take a little time to settle in. And as you said, they need players to kick on. It's time for them to kick on, and it's not the most ideal situation for CJ Stroud, but he's held his own mostly, and that's what's impressed me. It's sort of eerily similar to Joe Burrow's first season when he doesn't have an offensive line either. But hopefully,
well, he will get it. He will get his offensive line back. So at the end of the season, the Texans will be a lot better than they are now. It's just they've been hurt by injuries. When you're missing the best, the highest paid tackle as well in Laramie Tunsil, when you're missing your right tackle, when you're missing your guard that you drafted in the first round last year, then it's like crap. That's really bad. That's really bad luck.
I think if Houston somehow win this, somehow pull it off, it changes the season for both teams. I think both teams are looking at completely different narratives for the rest of the season. So it's a fun game to watch because it's the NFL and anything can happen. But I'm expecting Jags to win, and I'm expecting it to be breeze.
Yeah, there we go. Right, on to Denver, who travelled to Miami this week. The Dolphins are 6.5-point favourites. Miami are the talk of football, the best AFC team this season, and it seems like they have an answer for everything a defense throws at them, which they didn't last year. Tua is playing the best football of his life. He's a biggest favourite for MVP too. But this may be their toughest test because it looks like they could be without Jalen Waddle. He did practice today, but he's still in concussion protocol. But they're going against Denver, who are a bit of a mess because they have two top veteran play callers in Sean Payton, obviously, and Vance Joseph. But they don't look well coached at all. They lost the past two games situationally, especially the one in Washington last week. And I just don't expect that from Sean Payton. I don't. Yes, their team's very injured, right? But I'm surprised what's going on. Their defense is what let them down last week. But the offensive line just collapsed halfway through. They had a good half, and then they just allowed the Washington defense on, which yes, is really good. But they just allowed them. But Denver spent a lot of money on the offensive line, and they just allowed them to come at them. And like I said, that really hurt their offensive play in the second half, where Russ was pretty much absent until the final drive. Obviously, the Hail Mary was amazing, but they didn't convert a 2-point conversion. Denver could easily be 2-0 right now. They really could be, but they're sat at 0-2, and they're going to up against probably one of the best teams in the league. And this game is so fascinating for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game and it's going to be a great watch. I mean, the Dolphins are cooking. Like 2 road victories to start the season, and you look at the likes of Tua, who looks. I'm so happy Tua's been talked about and not referring to his head nowadays. It's so refreshing to have something like actual praise for his game for once. I mean, a lot of people are down on Denver at the moment, and fair enough, they are 0-2, and as you said, they could be 2-0, but the talent is there undoubtedly, and the coaching, especially Sean Payton, we know is elite.
It's not been elite. We don't know what's going on. It's not been elite.
And that's why I don't think they're going to be down for the remainder of the season. And if this is the game where it clicks, they turn it around, they start making them plays that they have missed out on to go on and do, and they start asking the big questions and stuff like that, it could get tight. And I mean, it's going to be a good matchup, all in all. I think positionally as well. I think positionally Miami take most of the matchups. But Sean Payton is one hell of a play caller. And if he can find a way to break down this Miami defense, I think they could take it. But I'm taking Miami with the win. Yeah.
Well, Sean Payton versus Vic Fangio, that's one matchup that you're looking for in this game. I also am expecting a lot more out of Denver because, again, they're looking at that and they're thinking, we've lost 2 games we should have won. There aren't many more easy games on the schedule left. We've got to play, the Chiefs twice. You've got to play the Chargers, the Raiders again, who you lost to. As well as the rest of the AFC East teams, who again, the Jets less so, but there's still a Patriots in there. There's still obviously Buffalo, and this has got to be a game they've got to bounce back in because otherwise the season's lost. And we talk about it. Russ Wilson that's looking at one of the worst trades of all time. Admittedly, yes, Russ doesn't look the problem right now because he's been solid, but I'm looking for a resurgent Broncos performance. I think Russ will be a bit better than solid. I'm going to go for the under, but I just can't pick against the Dolphins to win this game.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
For sure. On to another divisional matchup. This one staying in the AFC East as the Patriots travel to the Jets. The Patriots are 2.5 point favourites on the road, despite losing their first 2 home games. And this one has lost its shine a little bit without Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but it will still be one of the best games of this week because of the talent on the defensive side of the football between the Patriots and the Jets. It's a battle between 2 under pressure 2021 first round picks, 2 at quarterback. Mac Jones has looked okay, especially with who he has to throw to, but he just doesn't look, great in a very competitive AFC. Zach Wilson, on the other hand, he looked lost last week against Dallas. And Bill Belichick has done that to him, many times before too. So I'm picking New England, but this is going to be one. I'm going to go for the over as well, but it's going to be one hell of a game because there's 2 great defenses. It's going to be low scoring, but I think this one will be turnover heavy, and it'll be a 9-6 or something like that. But again, it'll be one of the best games of the week because you've got probably the best young defense in football, and then Bill Belichick and the oldest defense, the one that everyone wanted to beat for years and years and years, and coaching wise, and Belichick really has to start winning games because otherwise, what happens after? I just think against the Jets, you got your very young quarterback against Zach Wilson, who looked lost last week. It's just Belichick territory. This is the game that he wins, and I can't. Again, I'm going to go for the Patriots, the over as well. I just can't pick against the Patriots because they've looked good the first 2 weeks. They're unlucky they've played Miami and Philadelphia, obviously 2 teams who are very high on power rankings, and the Super Bowl team from last year and a team that people think could get to Super Bowl this year in Miami. They've hanging tough. They could be 2-0, but they've had a few plays go against their way, and yes, I'd probably say they played better in Philly than they did against Miami. Against Philly, and they did against Miami. But now, I honestly, if the Patriots lose this game, then you're worried because this is Bill Belichick's bread and butter, isn't it?
Oh, completely, 100%. And I'm looking at the Patriots sitting at 0-2, and they have not been playing like an 0-2 team at all. They've impressed me because I was low on them coming into this season. There was reports of Belichick potentially being in a hot seat. I'm not sure how serious that is. I think even if they are terrible, I think he'd last till the end of the year. I don't think he gets with his whole tenure. I don't think they're doing the disrespect of letting him go mid-season. But it is true about these defenses are the real deal, and it's going to be an entertaining game. And as you said, I think it'll be turnover heavy. I think it'll be one of them weird games where, like last week, where we saw 4 fumbles in consecutive drives or something like that. I'm not saying it'll be like that, but I'm taking New England because I don't trust Zach Wilson in this role. As you said, he looks lost. And I get it's against the Dallas defense, which is stacked. But my God, did he look lost? He did not look like doing anything. And it'll come down to 1 or 2 big plays, I think. And whether that be on offense or defense, I think it'll be a fun watch. It'll be divisional, so it'll be an important watch. But I have New England winning it, and I think I agree with you in a low-scoring game. I'm not sure I'd take the... What is the over?
It's 2.5. New England are favourites by 2.5. I'm going to go for the over. Yeah,
I'll take the over. I thought it was if it was a touchdown in it, I don't think I'd take the over. But with it being a field goal, I'd take the over. I'm taking New England.
There we are. On to the final game in the 6 p.m. window. This one also staying in the AFC East. It's the Bills travelling to Washington. And somehow Washington are 2-0. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year, eh? And while Sam Howell hasn't looked great at quarterback, their defense is a problem. The D-line got all over Russell Wilson in the second half last week, and also the Denver receivers could not get open whatsoever either. And they got a lot this week. They got a lot bigger of an offensive problem though, because they got Josh Allen, who cooked last week. He bounced back from his poor performance against the Jets, but they've also got James Cook, who was a star last week. And if he can carry on from what he did last week, the Bills win this game, because this is the kind of game that they'd lose because they've been lacking a run game. All the shootouts the Bills have played in is because they've not had a run game. They're a really talented team, but they've not had a run game. I'm going to go for the Bills. I'm going to go over 6.5 points based on what I saw last week, but also because I don't think Washington can score against them because their defense is also really good. But fair play to Washington. You're 2-0, and while Sam Howell probably isn't the answer, Ron Rivera might be saving his job with this coaching job. So We'll see how that develops over the season. But the Buffalo are one of the best teams in the league. And there's a reason why, because they're so talented, and you see on their inactives, you see star players missing out on their inactives every week, and that's a sign that you've got a good roster. So yeah, I'm gonna go for the Bills.
Exactly what you said. I mean, Washington sitting at 2-0. I mean, don't think anyone would have that. Sam Howell, there's question marks over him. But bad news, Washington. Josh Allen looks like he's back to his best after that bounce back after week 1. Look, he had 83% pass completion, 3 touchdowns. He was controlling that game completely.
They didn't even ask him to do much though. That's the thing. His average depth of target is quite low in this game because he was just hitting the Raiders over the middle, dink and dunk, and the Raiders defense is really bad, right? But we'll see how it goes in this game, because obviously the Commanders defense is way better than the Raiders one. But Allen, let's just hope that was a blip, because if not, then the AFC East battle gets really interesting. Obviously,
it does.
But Allen's always been a player as well, where it's like he'll make 5 good plays in the game, but you might see 5 bad plays too, and it's just the balance of sometimes he'll have a real, and then sometimes he'll have a game like the Jets. But I said he looked good last week. But for me, I'm interested in seeing how they can go on the ground game, because if they can take pressure off Allen as well, then that's a great sign.
So as you said, with Josh Allen, the good comes very much with the bad, and if the bad turns into turnovers against this Washington defense, which have shown they can hang with the best, it could get interesting. But I think this Bills team, as you said, are incredibly talented, and they know what they're doing. They've been a group. They've had their key assets have been together for many years. They know what they're doing. They're a group who knows what it takes to win, and I think this is one of them ones where they just pick up confidently and move on to the next one. I'll take the over as well. Well done, Washington. I think your win streak ends here.
Yeah, fair play. Right, on to the 9 window. There's only 3 games in the 9 window, which is interesting. That's just a bit of a weird one, but it means that most people have their eyes on the Bears heading into Kansas City. The Chiefs 12.5-point favourites, which is a massive margin, but with the way the Bears have been this year, you can sort of see that. The 2 teams who have come out of the blocks probably slower than expected, especially the Chiefs. And with the Bears, expectations weren't high, but they've been a total mess these past 2 games. Let's be real.
Oh, completely. No, it looks ugly for the Bears. I mean, they went 3-14 last year, and they have a real chance of going 0-3 to start off this year. I mean, both of their games so far this year have been double-digit losses. And coming out of last game, Fields calling out his coaching staff because his play is too robotic. It's like a reality show gone wrong. It's awful. I mean, Alan Williams resigning as DC as well. Nothing seems to be going right for him. And I think the Chiefs are licking their lips at this matchup, especially looking at the Bears. I was looking at the Bears. I was like, how are they this bad? And I noticed their interior line is awful, and they're lining it up against Chris Jones this weekend. And I know Justin Fields is renowned for being good with his legs. Don't think he's that good.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's been an interesting week in Chicago. Obviously, Fields calling out coaching. Then hours later, Alan Williams, the DC resigned. There's also been talk there was an FBI raid at his house, so it could be something completely unrelated. But
staying out of that one.
Yeah, that's just a weird week for Chicago. And it's just that, despite spending money at linebacker, right, Williams' unit was a disgrace in week 1. They got torn apart by Green Bay in all phases. And then the same thing by Tampa Bay, really. It was close, but the offense is what let them down against Tampa Bay, because they probably should have won that game. But I don't think Justin Fields is the problem at all. I'm higher on him than most people, but apart from a few, he's been quite good, average, I'd say. But it's not bad by any means. And then there was a few decisions at the end of last week that were bad. But I don't think he's the issue. He's just, like I said, he's not got an offensive line. They brought in Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs offensive tackle over the offseason. He's got injured already. While Donnell Wright, their tackles played well. It's like it's a match of the rest of the offensive line, and that's not good. So it's like he's found DJ Moore as well a few times. He's had a few big plays. But he's not DJ Moore. Having DJ Moore has not helped him take the next step as a passer, what he thought he would do this season, and that is an issue, I think, because he's not where I want him to be as a passer, but he is outstanding with his legs, and he's not running. I wanted to see him run more because he's had I think he's had 8 scrambles, and there's not been many design runs in there either. And that's someone more than Justin Fields should be running like 10 times a game, let alone 10 times a season so far in the first 2 games. Like, I want to see him get out of the pocket more. I want to see him use his legs because Chicago probably would have been even worse last year if they hadn't had that sort of breakthrough with rushing the football at the end of last year. It created the hype we had this year, and it really it really set up a I thought the Bears could, I don't think they're going to playoffs, but I thought they'd get 8 wins maybe. But it looks like they're heading back towards number 1 pick territory again, which is not great at all. And playing a resurgent Chiefs team, who they found some sort of rhythm offensively in the second half against the Jags. The Chiefs, they haven't started well, but this is the perfect scenario for a get right game, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. They must be in training this week looking at the lineups and thinking, yeah, we got a chance here. The over is huge. At 12.5, it's over. If I was a betting man, I think I'd take him. I think I really would. It's just getting ugly for the Bears. And look, after 3-14 last year, we thought that they were going to somehow turn that into 8 wins and somehow make that step up. Just hasn't happened. And it's a shame because Bears fans are among some of the best in the league. They're just not seeing good football at the moment for the last 2 years, and they'll be back. But for now, I think Chiefs win, and I think I would take the over on 12.5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the Chiefs only scored 1 TD last week, right? And who was it to? Travis Kelce. It's just a standard, isn't it? Mahomes, I said it in the podcast on Monday. Mahomes, Kelce, end zone, third down standard. It happens. But there have been mistakes in there, and I think ultimately they'll probably be able to coach them out eventually. We'll see. We'll see them start to get a groove. The O-line, which is my concern for the Chiefs going into the season, it's looked really good. They've got 2 new tackles. They've revamped the O-line, and it's looking better than it did last year, which is really good. And that may be the most important thing for this Chiefs offense. They also go from playing against one of the best defenses this season in the Jags to one of the worst in the Bears. So like I said, it's a great opportunity for a get right game. The Chiefs defense as well, which is I think we'll have an outstanding game this week. They've been really good this year. Chris Jones came in last week after his restructured contract. And he made it like even better. He was dominant last week coming in.
Good.
And while the issues for the Chiefs have been that their offense is struggling in the red zone, especially they were second in the red zone last year. They're 22nd this year. Sorry, 18th this year, and they were second and third down last year. They're 22nd this year. So situationally they have got worse, but it's Mahomes, it's Reed. Another week with Kelce back in practice as well. I think the Chiefs are going to be. This is where the season starts really, because look, they're still one of the most talented teams in football, and yeah, they might be without Kadarius Toney, but they've got many other receivers who can step up in that role. You just remember they can actually catch the ball or not this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs as well. I don't know about the over. It's quite a lot. It is quite a lot.
It is a lot. I don't
know if I'm going to pick that, but I can't go. I can't pick against the Chiefs this week for sure. On to Seattle, who host Carolina. The Seahawks are 6.5 point favourites, and Bryce Young is the second rookie QB to miss this week due to an ankle injury. He will be replaced by Andy Dalton. And you might actually get a better offensive product from the Panthers with Andy Dalton at QB, because he's a bigger QB. He can see over his offensive line, which is very bad, which will be very helpful as well. It's just a bit of veteran experience as well. But I just can't see that being enough for the Panthers to win this game, because Seattle looked miles better last week. Gino and the offense moved well throughout. I don't know if that's more the Lions' defense being really bad or not. But yeah, and while their defense hasn't really been what's expected, I still think they'll win comfortably on Sunday. So I'm going to go for the over with Seattle as well. Yeah, defense has to be better, doesn't it? But yeah, they're too good to play against this Panthers team without Bryce Young.
Yeah, as you said, I think Bryce Young missing is the decider in this one. I mean, I'm a Seahawks fan, and on Seahawks Twitter, when the news came out that Dalton will be starting, They were going mental with like guaranteed win. I don't think it's that simple at all.
No, because I think they'll be better than they would be about Bryce Young. I think you're too talented.
Give Andy Dalton his credit. He can run an offense pretty well. I mean, as you said, I think it comes down to talent. And if this was week 2 after the Seahawks came off that loss, I think there's got a lot more question marks. But I think last week they put a lot of question marks to bed, especially in that overtime drive, which was consecutive plays just going down the field until we found Tyler Lockett in the end zone to win the game. And I think Gino he's looked okay. We paid him, so he's got to look okay. But as you said, I think Andy Dalton will play well. I wouldn't take the over. I think it'll be closer than first thought. But I think the Seahawks take this one. And I think it's just another on ones where if you're going to contend with San Francisco, I'm not saying they can, but I'm saying if they look to contend with San Francisco, these are the ones you have to win. You have to win.
For sure. On to the final game in the 9 o'clock slate before Sunday Night Football. It is the Cowboys travelling to Arizona, where the Cowboys are 12.5-point favourites. And it's one of the most talented teams in football versus one of the worst. But surprisingly, it's two of the league's top defences who will face off in Arizona this week, with both the Cowboys and the Cardinals at the top of the team sack rankings. One thing I think is safe to say is that Arizona won't go winless. From what they've shown us the last couple of weeks, they won't go winless at all. They're playing with heart and playing with a fight, and they were so close to a win both weeks. And it will come, but not this week. The Cowboys' offense is their first true test, and it will show, as it will versus the Arizona offense too, because their defense is the best unit of football for a reason. And even without Trevon Diggs, who is out for the season, unfortunately, I don't think he'll be as big of a miss as people think, because you got to remember he's not great in coverage, and yet you might lose some turnovers, but the rest of the defense is so good. When you got Micah Parsons, who might be one of the best players in the entirety of football, on the defensive side of the football, I can't pick against Dallas here, and I might even go for the over, to be honest, with 12.5, because they're really, really good. Dak in the offense isn't great. It's just not. Dak Prescott's playing okay this season, but he's quite good against the Jets. But the first week he didn't do anything against the Giants. They just sort of did it for him. The offense isn't great. You've still got a great run game. You got other guys other than Tony Pollard contributing as well. You got Rico Dowdle, Deuce Ford, etc. As well in there. And the receivers are great too, and the O-line's good as well, even when you've had some injuries this year too. The Cowboys are really good. They're one of the contenders for the Super Bowl. I don't know if I think they might come unstuck in the playoffs, but they certainly won't come unstuck in this game. So yeah, I'm going for the Cowboys and the over 12.5 points.
And Dallas coming unstuck in the playoffs. Never heard of that before. But I agree. I think Arizona's been a shock for me. I was expecting them to be terrible. Even Josh Dobbs doesn't look too bad at that starting role against the Giants first half. He looked to be pretty good. But this Arizona defense is good. This Dallas defense is unreal. I mean, yes, you said Diggs is a big miss. He's a turnover machine. He will get you the ball back 5 times a season against play. But he will be a bit missed. But you look at that defense, and it's genuinely stacked. And I think Michael Parsons is the second best defensive player in football right now. I'll get on to who I think is the best this later. But I think Arizona offense struggles to get going here, and I'm not sure if I'd take the over. I'll think about it. I'd take the over. I think this is pretty simple for Dallas. It would be a very Dallas thing to do to make a meal out of it. But I think they will go away with a win. And I think if you're Dak Prescott here and you're against this not bad Arizona defense, I think this is one of these games where Trey Lance is there, sort of breathing down your neck. I think this is one of the games you look at and think, this is where I show that I am deserving of the QB1 spot. And I don't know if he does that necessarily, but I think Dallas do win this game. And I think it'll be fun to see how Dak plays, especially against this sort of uncertain Arizona defense. We know they're good. We don't really know how good.
Yeah, for sure. On to Sunday Night Football. It's the Steelers travelling to Vegas. The Raiders are 2.5-point favourites. And it's not that appealing of a primetime game because, I find the 2 Monday games are way more appetising. But I'm just excited to learn more about what these teams are, to be honest with you. The Raiders are pretty good at Denver, but they got dismantled by Buffalo in the second half last week. And now they host Pittsburgh in their home opener. They're 2.5-point favourites, like I said. And look, Pittsburgh, they've been one of the worst teams in the league offensively this year. But their defense has kept them in games. It won them the game in Cleveland last week. Sorry, against Cleveland last week. And my TJ Watt Defensive Player of the Year prediction is looking great. He's been so good. He's had 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and he recovered another fumble for a touchdown in Cleveland last week. And like I said, the defense won the game Monday night. They scored 2 of the 3 touchdowns. Obviously, the other one was a Alex Highsmith touchdown, and that's without Cam Hayward on defense as well, at the middle of their defensive line too. The offense, on the other hand, has struggled because the offensive line, especially, which they spent money on, they brought in Isaac Seumalo from Philadelphia. But it's not been great for a second-year QB to have in front of him. There was a lot of hype, obviously, with the offense heading into this year. Strong pre-season and into last year as well, obviously, with Pickett turning around. They won loads of games down the stretch. But if anything, it's actually got worse, I think. There were shouts in the stands on Monday nights, to fire the offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, from the crowd again, which they were a lot. There had been before as well. And obviously, look, at receiver, Deontay Johnson getting hurt in the season opener wasn't great because that's your number 2 receiver, probably your number 1 receiver as well. Him and Pickens are both quite good. And without him as well, then obviously they're going to have all their attention on George Pickens, and it's not great for Kenny Pickett, who hasn't looked great at all this year. What are your thoughts on the Steelers first before going to the Raiders?
I mean, the Steelers, I think we know their defense. TJ Watt is an outrageous football player, and I think every team in the country would take him. And I agree. I have in my notes, stand out as an early Defensive Player of the Year candidate, 100%. George Pickens looked very good last game. That 71-yard catch and run touchdown was good. It's no secret the problems with this Steelers offense. And the Kenny Pickett has a 19.9 QPR. What on earth? It's Matt Canada being in the OC position. His seat is so hot. He needs to turn this around. And Deontay Johnson being on IR does not help the situation at all. You're looking at it and you're thinking, if I was Matt Canada as the OC of Steelers, I'd with Deontay Johnson being on IR, I'd pivot the offense more towards George Pickens, because we've seen flashes that he can make some big plays. We've seen flashes where he, even in double coverage or like awkward catches, he makes some plays, and I think it's the offense that are letting him down here. They have the 32nd ranked quarterback at the helm. It's not good, but I think this game comes down to how Josh McDaniels game plans against Menker and TJ. That is completely. If he can somehow, I don't know how. I don't think anyone knows how, but if he can somehow quieten them both down, I think they could potentially contend, because the Pittsburgh run game has been not good as well. They've got 96 yards so far this season rushing. I don't know if that's Najee Harris or the offensive line, or maybe even both. But it's not clicked for the Steelers, but defense wins games. And my God, is their defense good.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the Steelers haven't really made anything with the run game. There's a lot of talk about Jalen Warren coming in, sort of maybe even challenging Najee Harris for the bulk of the carries, because they've got to rule out 1-2 punch there, but that's not really happening. They've not they haven't really found any success on the ball, running the ball at all, really. The Raiders haven't either, though, because Josh Jacobs doesn't look great. They had a strong week 1, from a team, especially in offense. The line was good once more. Jacoby Myers stepped up when Josh Jacobs couldn't get going, but he missed last week with a concussion. And Devontae Adams was probably the only player that showed quality against the Bills, which is saying something about his team. Defense isn't great. It's still one of the worst in football. I'd say more. Been saying so many times for so many years about the Raiders. It's just bad. Jimmy looked solid last week, actually, and obviously the week before more so. His average depth of target is higher as well, which is good as well, because he's pushing the ball downfield, which Jimmy doesn't normally do. He's obviously familiar with the system, obviously having been in New England when McDaniels was the play caller at New England. But yeah, when Buffalo put on the pressure last week is when he showed his flaws in the second half, for sure. Yeah, like I said, Josh Jacobs, he's been terrible running the football. He had 9 carries and -2 yards last week. He couldn't really get going against Denver either. But he did get involved in the passing game. He had 5 grabs for 51 yards, which saved me in fantasy last week. For sure. Yeah, he got like 5 receptions to 51 yards, got me like 10 points. So that was great. He was the rushing leader last year. they have to get him going this week to have a chance against his defense, right? Because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo can unpick it.
No, completely agree with everything. It's just, that Josh Jacobs 9 rushing for -2. Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. Look, this Raiders team, it's not all bad. Their defense is very bad, but it's not all bad. I think Jacoby Myers, reports are coming that he will play, so that's a big plus for them.
Yes, back from concussion.
We always know that Devontae Adams will turn up. It's just getting the ball in his hands. It's the issue. I think Jimmy G, as you said, has been impressive. I think they're looking at that situation of both Saints and Raiders have had new quarterbacks, and they're feeling positive about it. So I think that off-season little thing has worked out well. But look, you're looking at a good defense against a bad offense, and a bad offense against a good defense, and it's a weird matchup. But I think it comes down to who has more overall talent, and I think it is the Steelers that do have more overall talent. I think they take this pretty comfortably to go 2-1.
Same. It's the Raiders are favourites of 2.5, but I don't know why. I still look, Mike Tomlin against Josh McDaniels. I know who I'm picking as a coach in that situation. So we'll go for the underdogs. We're going for the Steelers. I'm gonna go over 2.5 points as well. I'm going completely against the spread here, and I think I've put so much stock into my Steelers take this year. I'm just hoping it comes true because I had about 11-6. I had Tomlin coach of the year. I had TJ Watt defensive player of the year, which admittedly is quite good. But my two biggest disappointments this year have been the Steelers and the Texans for sure. But that's it. That's week 3 previewed, mate. Thank you for coming on again. It's been great to have you on. It's a really good podcast actually as well. So it was awesome to have you on, and obviously we'll have you on throughout the season as well, mate. It's been awesome to have you on.
Yeah, so cheers, mate. It's good to be on. I've had a ball. Thank you.
I will see you in a minute, but we will see you on Monday night. It might come into your feed by Tuesday morning by the time you've watched all the games and everything. But we'll see you on Monday night. We'll look forward to the Monday night football games, but we'll also break down every single game from week 3. I've been your host, Sam. He's been Owen Cawdell, and we'll see you next time.